Hey, what's up guys? CombatCritique here. Let's take a look at this upcoming fight between Grant Dawson and Bobby Green. So let's get started. If we take a look at the records of these two guys, starting with Grant Dawson. So Dawson has 22 fights and he has won 20 of his 22 fights, lost just one, and he also has a draw on his record. If we talk about his 20 wins, he has just 4 wins via knockout, 13 wins via submission. So this man is a submission expert. You can tell just by looking at his record, and he also has 3 wins via decision. So pretty exciting fighter to watch. Not most of his fights do not go the distance. If we talk about his one loss, he has been knocked out. And now let's talk about Bobby Green. So Bobby has 46 fights, so significantly more MMA experience for Bobby compared to Dawson, and he's won 30 of his 46 fights, lost 14. He also has one draw and one no contest on his record. If we talk about his 30 wins, he has 10 wins via knockout, 9 via submission, and 11 via decision. So pretty balanced in terms of the win column. Now let's take a look at his 14 losses. He has been knocked out 4 times and he has lost via submission twice, and 8 times he has lost via decision. Now let's take a look at the physical and career stats of both these guys, starting with the height. So height is 5'10 for Grant Dawson and it is also 5'10 for Bobby Green. Next up we have the weight. So both these guys are lightweight fighters and they should be making that 155-pound weight. If we talk about the reach, Grant Dawson has a 72-inch reach, whereas Bobby Green is having a 71-inch reach. So in this case, surprisingly, the advantage goes to Grant Dawson, who's not much of a striker, as we'll see. If we talk about the stance, Grant Dawson is a switch stance fighter, whereas Bobby Green is an orthodox stance fighter. Now, talking about the age, Dawson is the younger fighter and Bobby Green is older by about 8 years, and the age difference between two can definitely play a factor in this fight. Bobby Green is nearing the end of his career and Grant Dawson has not even hit his prime yet. He is about to hit his prime in a few years. Now let's talk about the career statistics, starting with the strikes landed per minute. So this signifies the number of significant strikes that you land on your opponent per minute. On average, this is 2.99 for Grant Dawson and it is 6.14, more than double that number for Bobby Green. So Bobby Green has a clear advantage here. He is landing a lot more strikes on his opponents per minute compared to Grant Dawson. Next up, we have the striking accuracy, which is 51% for Dawson and it is 52% for Green. So both these guys are even, but a slight advantage goes to Bobby Green again. And next up, we have the strikes absorbed per minute. So this is the opposite of strikes landed per minute. This signifies the number of strikes that you absorb from your opponent per minute. On average, this is 2.22 for Grant Dawson and it is 3.67 for Bobby Green. In this case, the guy with the lower number has an advantage because he is getting hit lesser. So here the advantage goes to Dawson. Striking defense is 46% for Dawson and it is 62% for Bobby Green. So a huge advantage here goes to Bobby Green again. Overall, in the striking, we can pretty much say that Bobby Green is the better striker. Now let's take a look at the wrestling, grappling and BJJ statistic. Starting with the takedown average, it is 3.7 for Dawson. This denotes the number of takedowns on average that he gets in a 15-minute fight, which is 3.7. If we compare this with Bobby Green, it is just 1.21. So a clear advantage here goes to Dawson. He is the better wrestler. Takedown accuracy is 36% for Dawson and it is 37% for Bobby Green. So both these guys, I'll say, are pretty even, but a very slight advantage can be given to Bobby Green. Takedown defense is 40% for Dawson. I don't think he tries to defend takedowns. And if you talk about Bobby Green, it is 74%. So Bobby has a clear advantage here. Submission average, however, is 1.5 for Dawson and it is just 0.3 for Bobby Green. So in this case, a huge and clear advantage goes to Dawson. He is the better BJJ guy in this fight. If this fight goes to the ground, I'll be worried for Bobby Green. Now let's take a look at the significant strikes by position for both these guys, starting with Dawson. So 56% of all the strikes that Dawson throws are from the standing position, just 10% from the clinch and 33% on the ground. So he uses ground and pound quite frequently in his game. Compare this with Bobby Green, who has 80% of all his strikes from the standing position, 12% in the clinch, and just 8% on the ground. So Bobby Green likes to keep it standing and he does not do much on the ground. Now let's take a look at the significant strikes by target, starting with Dawson. So 64% of all the strikes that Dawson throws are to the head, 21% to the body, and 16% to the leg. Compare this with Bobby Green. 58% of all the strikes that Bobby throws are to the head, 25% to the body, and 16% to the leg. So Bobby Green goes to the body slightly more often than Dawson, and Dawson goes to the head more often than Bobby Green. Now let's take a look at some of the previous performances of these two guys, starting with Dawson. So Dawson is on a huge winning streak right now. And if we talk about his last fight, he fought Damir Ismagulov. A lot of people were picking Ismagulov to win this fight. However, Dawson took him down and held his back for the entirety of the fight and won a clear-cut unanimous decision. This fight happened in July of this year, so he is not taking a lot of time off and he is coming back to fight after about a break of 4 months, and this was a 3-round fight. If we talk about the fight before that, he beat Mark Madsen, the Olympian, and he finished him via submission rear naked choke in the 3rd round. This fight happened in November of last year. Before that, he also beat Jared Gordon via submission rear naked choke also in the 3rd round, and this fight happened in April of last year. And before that, he had a draw against Ricky Glenn, and this fight happened in October of 2021. It was a 3-round fight. And before that, he beat Leonardo Santos via knockout. He beat Nad Narimani via unanimous decision. He beat Derek Miner via submission rear naked choke. Michael Trizano also via rear naked choke, and Julian Erosa via unanimous decision. And before that was his Dana White Contender Series debut, where he beat Adrian Diaz via rear naked choke in the 2nd round, and this happened in August of 2017. So he has been fighting in the UFC for a while now. Now let's take a look at Bobby Green's record. Bobby Green in his last fight beat Tony Ferguson via submission arm triangle choke, and this happened in the 3rd round. This fight happened in July of this year. So just like Dawson, Bobby is also not taking a lot of time off and he is coming back to fight once again in 2023. If we talk about the fight before that, he had an NC against Jared Gordon where he had an accidental clash of heads. This happened in the very 1st round, and this fight happened in April of this year. So now this is the 3rd time that Bobby Green is fighting this year, and his activity is really high. This fight before the clash of heads, Jared Gordon was actually doing good against Bobby Green, and Bobby Green was trying to be slick, but Jared Gordon was catching him. Before this fight, Bobby Green lost to Drew Dober via knockout punches in the 2nd round. This fight happened in December of last year. And before this, he lost to the reigning champion Islam Makhachev via TKO punches in the very 1st round. This fight happened in February of last year. And before that, he beat Nasrat via unanimous decision in a 3-round fight. He also beat Ali Quinta via TKO punches in the very 1st round. Lost to Rafael Fiziev via unanimous decision in April of 2021, and also lost to Thiago Moises via unanimous decision. I think a lot of people are looking at Thiago Moises and comparing his skill set to Dawson and saying that Dawson also beats Bobby Green because Thiago Moises is a similar kind of wrestling background guy. If I have to pick a winner for this fight, I think I'll go with Grant Dawson. I believe he is the younger fighter. He has better wrestling and his submission game is top notch. In his last fight, what he did to Damir Ismagulov. Ismagulov also had good takedown defense just like Bobby Green, but he was held for the majority of the 3 rounds and dominated in that fight. I think Dawson will try to do the same to Bobby Green. Also, Bobby Green is nearing the end of his career. He is a pretty old guy, and I believe his last fight was also, he won the fight against Tony Ferguson, but we all know that Tony Ferguson is not in his prime. He is out of his prime and he should retire most likely, and beating Tony Ferguson does not mean anything for Bobby Green. Tony is not a young guy, and Bobby Green, if you look at his records, he is on a slide. He is also a old guy just like Tony. For these reasons, I am picking the younger fighter, Grant Dawson. I think he should win this fight. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I'll see you guys in the next video.